वेलकम बैक टू अवर यूट्यूब चैनल @पर्सनल टैक्स। आपका स्वागत है हमारे पार्ट 10 ऑफ क्लॉज बाय क्लॉज एनालिसिस ऑफ फॉर्म 3CD में। आज की वीडियो में हम क्लॉज 34 से 44 के क्लॉज को एनालाइज करेंगे, यानी कि ये हमारे क्लॉजेस सारे खत्म हो जाएंगे। हम ये पार्ट 10 बना रहे हैं जिसमें हमने सारे के सारे क्लॉज क्लॉज 1 से लेके 44 तक डिस्कस किए, टैक्स ऑडिट के सारे इंपॉर्टेंट प्रोविजंस डिस्कस किए। और एक लास्ट वीडियो जो हम बनाएंगे उसमें हम टैक्स ऑडिट रिपोर्ट की साइनिंग, टैक्स ऑडिट रिपोर्ट के यूटीन जनरेशन, इसके बारे में बात करेंगे। तो चलिए शुरू करते हैं क्लॉज 34 से। तो क्लॉज 34 ए क्या करता है? रिपोर्टिंग ऑफ टीडीएस ऑब्लिक टीसीएस कंप्लाइंस। द टैक्स ऑडिटर हैज टू चेक वेदर द प्रोविजंस ऑफ चैप्टर 17B and 17BB TCS apply to the assessee. If yes, auditor will answer yes and give details. If no, answer he will answer no. Sometimes there may be a debate or doubt. In such cases, auditor may qualify his answer with proper reasoning and mention judicial decisions if relied upon. So, basis of reporting क्या है? The auditor should review the TDS TCS returns filed by the assessee, since the number of transactions may be huge. Auditor can use test check to verify the accuracy. New provisions like TDS on purchase of goods, TCS on sale of goods, TDS on benefits, perquisites, and TDS on winning from online games must also be checked. Payment not recorded in P&L account like advance payment may also attract TDS, so the auditor must consider them. Clause 34A requires the auditor to verify if TDS TCS law apply, check whether the assessee has deducted, collected, and deposited the correct test, एंड देन रिपोर्ट डिटेल्ड फिगर्स इन अ स्ट्रक्चर्ड टेबल। तो ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट क्लॉज है टीडीएस टीसीएस कंप्लायंस से रिलेटेड। तो क्या इन्फॉर्मेशन देनी है? टैन नंबर, सेक्शन, नेचर ऑफ पेमेंट, टोटल अमाउंट ऑफ पेमेंट और रिसीट of the nature specified in column 3, total amount on which tax was required to be deducted, total amount on which tax was deducted, amount of tax deducted, amount on which tax was deducted, amount of tax deducted, amount of tax deducted or collected, not deposited to the credit of central government. If there is a difference in opinion on TDS applicability or rate, auditor must report it in his audit report. The assessee must prepare information properly so that auditor can verify. Auditor should maintain working papers for reconciliation between books and TDS TCS returns. Auditor must also check traces records to confirm whether tax deducted collected has been correctly deposited. Higher TDS TCS rate under section 206 AA AB CC CCA must also be considered. Clause 34B है reporting of TDS TCS statements का. Here the auditor must check if the assessee was required to file TDS TCS statements 24Q, 26Q, 27Q, 27EQ within the due date, और उसने फाइल की है या नहीं. क्या डिटेल देनी है? कॉलम 1 में 10, तो कॉलम 2 में टाइप ऑफ स्टेटमेंट रिक्वायर्ड, कॉलम 3 में ड्यू डेट क्या थी, एक्चुअल डेट क्या है कॉलम 4 में, और कॉलम 5 में whether all details transactions were properly reported. If there are omissions or errors, auditor must highlight them. Other points क्या है? Auditor should reconcile clause 34B with 34A and with disallowances reported under section 40A in clause 21B. Even if the assessee does not file the statement, auditor must report the fact. If information is too large, auditor should highlight significant deficiencies in form number 3C or form number 3CB. Clause 34B requires reporting on whether TDS TCS returns are filed on time within due dates, filing dates, and correctness of reporting. Clause 34C, interest on late deduction or collection of or payment. Auditor has to report if the assessee is liable to pay interest for delay in deduction, collection or delay in deposit of TDS TCS. Relevant sections कौन से हैं? 201(1)(a) interest on failure to deduct TDS on failure to deposit after deduction. 206(c)(7) interest on failure to collect TCS or failure to deposit after collection. Verification क्या करना है? Auditor should verify interest liability from the books of accounts, department record like form 26AS, AIS, TIS, traces. If there is a dispute on calculation of interest, auditor can recalculate up to the audit report date and mention differences in observations. Accounting impact क्या है? Under mercantile system, if interest is due but not provided in accounts, auditor must check its impact on true and fair view of the financial statement. Clause 34C requires auditor to report if interest is payable by the assessee for late deduction, collection on late deposit of TDS TCS, and verify the same with the books and the departmental records. क्लॉज 35A ट्रेडिंग कंसर्न्स के लिए है। तो यहाँ पर क्या करना है? assessee must provide certificates with details of opening stock, purchases made, sales made, closing stock, shortage, excess, damaged goods along with the reason. Auditor must cross check all this quantitative information from the business records. क्लॉज 35B है मैन्युफैक्चरिंग कंसर्न्स के लिए। अब द बिजनेस इज अ मैन्युफैक्चरिंग कंसर्न तो क्या देना है, प्रिंसिपल रॉ मटेरियल यूज्ड, फिनिश गुड्स प्रोड्यूस्ड एंड बाई प्रोडक्ट, इन तीनों का सर्टिफिकेट देना है। ऑडिटर हैज टू रिपोर्ट ऑन यील्ड, परसेंटेज ऑफ यील्ड, शॉर्टेज, एक्सेस बेस्ड ऑन अवेलेबल रिकॉर्ड्स। तो यील्ड क्या होता है, कितना मटेरियल डाल के कितना प्रोडक्शन हुआ, परसेंटेज बेसिकली। Note on byproducts देना है, byproducts are goods that are produced incidentally during manufacturing, waste converted into saleable goods. These should be treated like main products for accounting and record keeping. Practical consideration क्या करनी है, in large businesses it may not be possible for the auditor to check every single transaction. In such case, auditor may use sampling methods to verify correctness. Only principal items need to be reported, or small or petty items need not to be reported. Clause 35B, quantitative details including yield, wastage, byproducts for manufacturing business focuses only on principal items जिनका 10% से ज्यादा शेयर है मैन्युफैक्चरिंग में। Clause 36A, simplified explanation of clause 22 2E deemed dividend। तो यहाँ पर clause 36A बताता है कि अगर आपको deemed dividend मिला है तो वो कितना मिला है वो रिपोर्ट करना है। तो पहले समझते हैं कि deemed dividend होता क्या है। तो normally dividend means profit shared by the company to its shareholders, but under section 222E even certain loans or advances are treated as dividend। कभी अप्लाई होता है फॉर अ पेमेंट टू बी ट्रीटेड एज डिविडेंड अंडर दिस क्लोज ऑल दिस कंडीशंस मस्ट बी सेटिस्फाइड। कंपनी मस्ट बी अ क्लोजली हेल्ड कंपनी, यानी कि पब्लिक कंपनी नहीं होनी चाहिए, प्राइवेट लिमिटेड कंपनी कह सकते हैं। नेचर ऑफ पेमेंट, कंपनी गिव्स अ लोन और एडवांसेस और मेक्स अ पेमेंट ऑन बिहाफ और फॉर द बेनिफिट ऑफ अ शेयर होल्डर। शेयर होल्डर कौन है, रेसिपिएंट मस्ट बी स्पेसिफाइड शेयर होल्डर, यानी कि उसके पास कम से कम 10% की वोटिंग पावर होनी चाहिए। टू whom the payment can be made, directly to the shareholder or to a concerned firm, HUF, AOP, BOI company where shareholder has substantial interest। तो पहले तो शेयर होल्डर जिसकी ओनरशिप 10% से ज्यादा है, और फिर दूसरा देना किसे है, या तो शेयर होल्डर को या फिर किसी ऐसे पर्सन को, किसी फर्म, HUF, AOP, BOI कंपनी को जहां पर वो शेयर होल्डर 20% से ज्यादा का ओनर है। कंपनी के प्रॉफिट, कंपनी मस्ट हैव accumulated profit equal to or more than the loans and advances. A deemed dividend amount is restricted to the extent of such accumulated profits। कुछ इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट्स हैं इसके रिगार्डिंग। टैक्स इज लेविड इन द हैंड्स ऑफ शेयर होल्डर एंड नॉट इन द हैंड्स ऑफ कंसर्न दैट रिसीव्स अ लोन। एक्यूमुलेटेड प्रॉफिट्स आर कैलकुलेटेड टिल द डेट ऑफ पेमेंट। इफ द कंपनीज मेन बिजनेस इज मनी लैंडिंग एंड इट गिव्स अ लोन इन द नॉर्मल कोर्स ऑफ बिजनेस, सच लोन इज नॉट ट्रीटेड एज डिविडेंड। Only those transactions which are in the nature of loans and advances are covered. Trade advances or commercial transactions are excluded. If the payment is already treated as salary remuneration, it will not be taxed again as dividend. Current account transactions need careful checking to see if they are business related or loan in nature। टैक्स ऑडिटर की क्या रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी, ऑब्टेन सर्टिफिकेट फ्रॉम असेसी अबाउट कंपनीज वेयर ही होल्ड्स 10% more than 10% वोटिंग पावर, कंसर्न्स वेयर ही हैज सब्सटेंशियल इंटरेस्ट, लोन एंड एडवांसेस रिसीव्ड फ्रॉम सच कंपनीज। वेरीफाई करना है फॉर्म 26 AS, AIS, TIS to check if TDS under section 194 has been deducted on such payment। If information cannot be independently verified, mention this in Form 3CA Clause 3 or Form 3CB Clause 5। Report under Section 36A of Form 3CD whether such deemed dividend is received. Yes. If yes, mention about amount and date of receipt। इसकी अगर कंसाइज में बात करें, शॉर्ट में बात करें तो क्या है, इफ अ क्लोजली हेल्ड कंपनी गिव्स लोन्स एंड एडवांसेस टू अ 10% प्लस shareholder or a concern in which such shareholder has 20% plus interest and the company has accumulated profits, and that loan and advances is treated as dividend and taxable in the hands of shareholder। Clause 37, reporting of cost audit, the tax auditor should ask management whether a cost audit was carried out. If yes, auditor should get a copy of the cost audit report। The tax auditor does not have to do a detailed review of that report, but must note if the cost auditor has reported any disagreements, mistake or issues related to the values, quantities or items। If cost audit was ordered but not actually carried out, the tax auditor does not need to give an opinion on it। If the cost audit has been ordered but not completed by the time the tax auditor gives his report, then the auditor must mention that the cost audit report is not available with the assessee। The tax auditor should check for which period cost audit was required। He only needs to report the details for the cost audit report that relates to the relevant previous year and is available up to the date of giving the tax audit report। In short, tax auditor must verify whether a cost audit was done, note any issues mentioned in it, and clearly report if the cost audit report is missing or incomplete for the relevant year। Clause 38, audit under the Central Excise Act 1944। The tax auditor should check with the management whether any audit has been conducted under Central Excise Act. If yes, he should get a copy of the audit report. He does not need to study the report in detail, but should note any issues, disagreements, or disqualifications mentioned in it. If an excise audit was ordered but not yet carried out, tax auditor does not have to give an opinion on it. Same to same है clause 37 और 38. 37 में cost audit की बात करता है और 38 में excise audit की बात करता है. If the excise audit was ordered but is still not completed at the time of issuing tax audit report, तो tax auditor mention कर देगा अपनी report में that excise audit report is not yet available. Auditor should also check the time period for which the excise audit was conducted. Information is to be given only if the audit period falls within the relevant previous year. In short, the auditor must report details of any excise audit report that has been received up to the date of tax audit report. Clause 38 simply requires tax auditor to disclose whether an excise audit was conducted, its finding, and whether the report was available before the signing of the tax audit report. Clause 39 whether any audit was conducted under section 72A, तो ये सर्विस टैक्स ऑडिट की बात करता है. In relation to evaluation of taxable services, if yes, please give details of any disqualification, disagreement on any matter, item, value, quantity as may be reported identified by the auditor. अब आज के टाइम में सर्विस टैक्स एप्लीकेबल नहीं है. As such, no reporting is to be done under this clause unless where any service tax demand is due for the period from April 1st to June 30th, 2017 in the year 22-23, assessment year 23-24, or a demand has been raised or a demand has been confirmed in the year 22-23. The impact of the said demand or provisions of or refund involved has to be reported in the audit. Clause 40. This clause requires calculation and reporting of certain financial ratios to understand the financial performance of the assessee. Who needs to report these ratios? Manufacturing or trading business. All ratios must be reported except ratio number 5 for trading business. Service providers, only ratios at serial number 1 and serial number 3 need to be reported. How ratios to be calculated? Use generally accepted accounting principles while interpreting items. Ratios should be based on values only and not quantities. Important definition ICI की गाइडेंस नोट के हिसाब से क्या क्या है. ग्रॉस प्रॉफिट की डेफिनेशन क्या है? सेल्स माइनस कॉस्ट ऑफ गुड्स सोल्ड. Turnover, total sales or service revenue can be reported as gross, net depending on adjustments like returns or discount. Net profit, revenue में से एक्सपेंस घटा दीजिए बिफोर टैक्स, और अगर ये नेगेटिव हो जाता है तो नेट लॉस. ऐसे ग्रॉस प्रॉफिट अगर नेगेटिव हो जाएगा तो ग्रॉस लॉस. स्पेशल पॉइंट्स फॉर सर्टेन रेशियोज. For stock turnover ratio, serial number 4, only closing stock of finished goods should be considered. Do not include raw material, work in progress, spares, or loose tools. Material consumed includes raw material plus stores plus spare parts plus loose tools. वैल्यू ऑफ फिनिश्ड गुड्स के लिए क्या फॉर्मूला दिया है? रॉ मटेरियल कंज्यूम प्लस स्टोर्स एंड स्पेयर पार्ट्स कंज्यूम प्लस वेजेस प्लस अदर मैन्युफैक्चरिंग एक्सपेंसेस प्लस ओपनिंग स्टॉक इन प्रोसेस माइनस क्लोजिंग स्टॉक इन प्रोसेस. ये आएगा आपका वैल्यू ऑफ फिनिश्ड गुड्स प्रोड्यूस. Disclosure requirements का है. Along with the ratios, show the working calculation of components used. If details are already in the financial statement, you may refer to them instead of repeating. तो जैसे शेड्यूल 3 में भी ऑलरेडी रेशियोज की वर्किंग जाती हैं तो उसको आप रेफर कर सकते हैं. कंसिस्टेंसी रिक्वायरमेंट. न्यूमरेटर एंड डिनोमिनेटर मस्ट बी कंसिस्टेंट. If there is a mismatch or deviation, it should be reported in Form 3CA, Para 3 or Form 3CB, Para 5. Comparative figures. Ratios must be compared with the previous year's figure. If the previous year was not audited, then no figure should be reported in the comparison column. Clause 40 requires tax auditor to compute and report certain financial ratios like GP ratio, NP ratio, stock turnover ratio, depending on the nature of business, ensuring correct definitions, proper calculations, consistency, comparability with the previous year. Clause 41. Reporting of demand refund orders under other tax laws. A business or taxpayer may also be assessed under other tax laws apart from the Income Tax Act and Wealth Tax Act. So जैसे कि GST, Customs Duty, Excise Duty, Service Tax, VAT, CST, Professional Tax. During the audit, the tax auditor must collect copies of all demand orders or refund orders issued under such laws during the previous year and received by the assessee till the date of audit. Even if the demand or refund relates to earlier year, it still has to be reported. The auditor should verify details from assessees, books of accounts, and orders from relevant departments. Cross-check demand refund with online portals of the respective department. Report any adjustment of refund against demand. Take a proper written representation from assessee to confirm details for companies. Also check disclosures of contingent liability in audited financials and in the stock auditor's report. Auditor must keep working papers with the following detail. तो क्या डिटेल रखनी है? फाइनेंशियल ईयर टू विच द डिमांड रिफंड रिलेट्स, नेम ऑफ द एप्लीकेबल एक्ट, डिमांड रिफंड ऑर्डर नंबर, if any, date of demand raised, refund issued, amount of demand raised, refund issued. The remark column should also mention the authority before which the case is pending. Clause 41 ensures that all tax demands or refunds are properly reported by the auditor even if they relate to the previous year. Clause 42, reporting of certain forms 61, 61A, 61B. Tax auditor has to check whether the assessee was required to file form 61, 61A, 61B and report it in the tax audit report. तो form 61 क्या है? Required when a person receives form 60, someone does a specified transaction without providing a PAN. Person who need to file it include those specified in Rule 114C, 1A to 1K, businesses covered under Section 44AB, who accepts cash payments over 50,000 in a hotel restaurant bill, accepts cash payment over 50,000 for a foreign travel, foreign currency purchase, do any sale purchase transactions exceeding 2 lakh in cash for goods or services not covered under Rule 114B list. Form 61A required under Section 285BA, Rule 114E. It is a statement of financial transaction that reports certain high-value transactions like large deposits, property purchase, etc. तो फॉर्म 61A यानी कि एसएफटी फॉर्म क्या होता है वो हमने सेपरेट वीडियो बनाई है, आपको हमारे चैनल पर मिल जाएगी. उसमें सारी ट्रांजेक्शन्स के बारे में बताया है कि कौन से ट्रांजेक्शन्स रिपोर्ट करने होते हैं और रिटर्न फाइल करने की ड्यू डेट क्या होती है. Form 61B, required by financial institutions for compliance with FATCA CRS reporting. Rule number 14, 114F, G and H define terms, reporting requirements and due diligence to be followed. Due date क्या है? Form 61, if declarations are received up to 30th September, file by 31st October. If declarations are received up to 31st March, file it by 30th April. Form 61A और 61B की है 31st May of the following financial year. ऑडिटर की क्या रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी? ऑडिटर मस्ट चेक वेदर द असेसी इज रिक्वायर्ड टू फाइल एनी ऑफ दीज फॉर्म्स. अगर यस तो यस और नो तो नो. अगर असेसी यस करता है then auditor should also mention which form was applicable, due date of filing, actual date of filing, registration details. Reporting accuracy, auditor must also confirm whether the filed forms contains all the required details. If some transactions are missing, auditor should give a list of unreported transactions. If too many transactions are missing, give an example and mention this in Form 3CA, Clause 3 or Form 3CB, Clause 5. Verification, auditor must verify these forms are as uploaded on the income tax portal before reporting under Clause 42. So Clause 42 requires a tax auditor to check whether the assessee had to file Form 61A, 61, 61B and ensure that they were filed on time and confirm whether the information filed was complete and correct. Clause 43, reported under Section 286, country by country reporting. This clause asks whether the assessee is required to furnish CBC report, which under Section 286 of the Income Tax Act. What is Section 286 all about? Section 286 requires multinational groups to file a report called CBC report. An international group means a group of companies that operates in more than one country. For example, a group with 2 or more companies in different countries or company in one country that has permanent establishment in another country. Who has to file the CBC report? If the parent company of the international group is based in India, it must file the report. If the Indian company is designated as alternate reporting entity, it must file the report. If the parent company is in India, but no other Indian company has been designated, parent must file the report. If another Indian group company is designated as the alternate reporting entity, that company must file the report. Only the parent company or a designated Indian group group company needs to file the report. When is filing not required? If the total consolidated revenue of the group is less than 6,400 crore, no filing is required. What does the auditor need to check? Whether the assessee is required to file report or if another group commonly is filing it. If the parent company is not in India, whether the Indian entity has filed Form 3 CAC. Obtain confirmation or certificate from an assessee about the group's structure, parent company, and whether an ARE is appointed. If the report is required, reply yes to clause 43A. Then the following details must be provided: whether the report has been filled, name of the parent company, name of the ARE, details of filing the report. Auditor should verify the filing through acknowledgement and supporting documents. In summary, clause 43 is about checking if a multinational group needs to file a CBC report under section 286. If required, details of who filed it, their names, and the filing date must be given. क्लॉज 44 बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट क्लॉज है ये, तो अभी रिसेंटली ही इंसर्ट हुआ है। क्या कहता है? ब्रेकअप ऑफ टोटल एक्सपेंडिचर। व्हाट दिस क्लॉज आस्क्स फॉर, क्लॉज 44 रिक्वायर्स अ ब्रेकअप ऑफ टोटल एक्सपेंडिचर incurred by a business during the year based on whether the payments were made to GST registered or non-registered entities. You don't have to give head-wise or nature-wise breakup, only total figures required in the format. What should not be included? Non-cash expenses like depreciation, bad debt, provision should not be reported here. Expenses which are not supplies under GST need not to be included. How to classify expenditure? Expenditure is divided into two broad heads with GST registered entities, goods, services exempt from GST, purchases from composition dealer, purchases from other registered dealer, total payment to registered entity. With non-registered entity क्या देनी है? Purchases services taken from person not registered with GST. Reconciliation करना है. The sum of registered entities and non-registered entities should match the total expenditure as per the books of account, except excluded item like non-cash expenses, salaries, securities, money. Capital expenditure also covered, not just expenses in P&L, but capital expenditure should also be reported here because the word used is expenditure. Special points to be remembered: for entities with multiple GST registration, inter-branch supplies must be reconciled. The supplier's GST registration status should be taken as on the date of supply and not a later cancellation date. Proper working papers should be kept with all details. If details are not available, assessee must give reasons. Auditor may make a disclosure disclaimer in Form 3CA, 3CB. Clause 44 wants businesses to disclose their expenditure split between GST registered and non-registered supplier, with further breakup among exempt suppliers, composition dealer, and other registered dealer. Capital expenses are included, non-cash charges and salaries are excluded. Proper reconciliation and auditor's disclosure are important. थैंक यू वेरी मच। ये हमारी 10 वीडियोस के साथ हमारा क्लॉज बाय क्लॉज एनालिसिस ऑफ फॉर्म 3CD खत्म होता है। अब हम जो लास्ट वीडियो इस टॉपिक पर कवर करेंगे उसमें हम बताएंगे कि भाई कैसे ऑडिट रिपोर्ट की साइनिंग करनी होती है, किसको करनी होती है, किसको यूनिट जनरेट करना होता है और बाकी सारे रिलेटेड मिसलेनियस प्रोविजंस। आप हमारे चैनल @पर्सनल टैक्स को सब्सक्राइब कर सकते हैं, साथ ही साथ हमें कमेंट्स में बता सकते हैं कि आप हमसे और किन टॉपिक्स पर वीडियो चाहते हैं। थैंक यू वेरी मच।